Welcome everybody to our webinar of honoring. Why am I having a mind blank? Of honoring
Missing
missing
and
and murdered
murdered.
Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit individuals in
Yeah.
Alberta. We're here with Taylor and Elder Diane um, as our lovely guests today. But before we kind of get into the big swing of things, we just want to start protocol in a good way. Um, with a smudge. And so, Elder Diane, I'm so glad you could be here today. It was a little bit of a
Hmm.
last minute notice, but we
Hmm.
got you here. And so I have tobacco for you that I will
Okay.
offer to you as, again, we
Yeah.
appreciate having you to start us off in a good way. I'll make sure that either Janet or Madison connects with you since we're
Yeah.
in different treaties, different
Yeah.
locations in Alberta. So I welcome you to just start us off in a good way. And I believe Janet has her smudge lit for us. So
Okay. Good. I can start. I can
perfect.
start saying the prayer now. This is a really special event. If this wasn't Missing and Murdered Women's event, I probably say no, I can't do it on short notice. But I came here to this park because I thought to myself, I bet you a lot of them came here. And so what tobacco I have here with me, I'm going to put it down in this park after we're done. And I'm going to still keep praying for them. I thank you for inviting me. I thank you for having the vision to do this. And I'm happy that whoever got the idea to do this, that means the Spirit came to you and said, do this thing. We need this thing to be done. I appreciate very much, but I'm going to start praying now in Sutena. Sonnet anata ninizada nitzikusnahata sinachina kimagut ate ninizada nitzikusnahata sikona hamagut ate diesitokona kimagut akim etikikitenecho sonnet anata. I pray to the Holy Spirit to bless us all and to bless the spirits of all the people we have lost in so many ways, and especially in this way of them being missing and them being murdered. I pray that the Holy Creator will take pity on all of us as we put our prayers down for these people who we have lost. See us, Gus. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you,
Okay.
Elder Diane. That
Yeah.
was beautiful. And again, we acknowledge, of course, it is a heavier topic. And so
Mhm.
being able to come together to speak about this is a great step in creating awareness and really connecting and sharing about this really important movement. It's ongoing, it's
Mhm.
real. So always a pleasure to have you, Diane. Thank you for that. And thank you for your smudge,
Yeah.
Janet. For those
Yeah.
of us
Thank
who
you,
are
Janet. Yeah.
roaming around in our vehicles like Elder Diane right now. So we'll continue on with our protocol, of course. So that is acknowledging the land that we're on. On behalf of Alberta Recreation and Parks Association, I want to acknowledge the First Nations, the Métis, the Inuit, and all of the people across Alberta who share a history and a deep connection with this land. We dedicate ourselves to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. And a personal note of where I'm calling in from Amiskwichi-Waskahikan, which is the Cree word for Edmonton and also translates to Beaver Hills House, located in
Mhm.
Treaty 6 territory. I am really honored to call this place home, which is not far from where my Cree and Métis roots come from, as I'm a member of the Enoch Cree Nation. And just a little thing, one thing I've really learned from Indigenous elders and community members over the years is how important it is to walk your own path towards reconciliation, yet
Mhm.
alongside others while helping each other along the way.
Mhm.
I really feel honored that I get to walk this path in this beautiful territory alongside a bunch of amazing people who are putting in the good work as well, which really brings us to this webinar today. So I will do a couple introductions here to really properly acknowledge the lovely ladies that we have with us in the room, in the virtual room today. So first and foremost, of course, we have Elder Diane McGinnis. Thank you again for your lovely blessing. Elder Diane is from the Tsuut'ina Nation and was actually an environmental research manager for the nation, which is amazing.
Mhm,
Elder Diane is currently a Knowledge Keeper advisor for the University of Calgary, the Elders Knowledge Circle, the City of Calgary on Indigenous housing
mhm,
solutions, and she advised on an Alberta government report on ways of addressing domestic violence.
mhm,
Diane has also been a really awesome addition and a repeat addition to the Communities Choose Well Grandmother Circles, and
mhm,
was also the leader at the 2023 Choose Well Symposium, as some of you may have met her there. Diane is also one of the elders who helped ARPA create our Walking with Indigenous Communities Action Map, which is like a key foundation resource that we're so happy to have made with her help and many other elders' help. And then, of course, she's an advocate for the Tsuut'ina language and enjoys supporting her children and her grandchildren's participation in ceremonial events,
mhm.
cultural teachings, and recreation activities. So welcome, Elder Diane.
Yeah,
Next,
thank
we
you so
have,
much.
of course, next we have Taylor McPherson, who is a driven and accomplished individual who takes great pride in her Mi'kmaq First Nation heritage. Let me know if I've said that correctly, Taylor.
It's all
Um,
good. It's
Perfect.
fine.
She has recently completed her Master's of Science in Kinesiology at the University of Alberta. She has a huge passion for sports, which stems from her experience as an alumni of Pandas Wrestling, where she excelled as a wrestler at both the varsity and national team level. And of course, with her love for sports, she aims to inspire and empower those around her to develop more inclusive spaces for Indigenous people and girls within sports programming. And then, of course, she serves as the program or sports program coordinator with the Indigenous Sport Council of Alberta, where she is responsible for developing and implementing culturally appropriate sports programming for Indigenous girls and women in Alberta. So, welcome, Taylor. I know you'll do more of an introduction in your presentation here shortly. And then myself, I won't take as long. I don't have as long of a description, me being as the facilitator as well. But if you don't know me, I'm the communications and marketing coordinator for the Alberta Recreation and Parks Association. I've been with ARPA for the last 4.5 years now, which is crazy to think about. I started as a practicum student, and like many of our ARPA staff, they locked me in ever since. I'm part Cree Métis with heritage on my dad's side, and then my mom is Ukrainian and English heritage. So she grew up actually in Spruce Grove, 20 minutes west of Edmonton, and my dad in Enoch Cree Nation. So yeah, with uh, with me today we have Madison, who's the one spotlighting and doing tech support in the back. So thank you, Madison, for being here today.
Mhm.
And then, of course, we have Janet Naklia with us as well, helping to support and who provided our lovely lit smudge today. So I appreciate all of you here. Yeah, so housekeeping really quickly before we get into the swing of things. We're gonna aim to try and have a question and answer period at the end, and we encourage you to type those questions in the Q&A box. I don't know if we have the chat box enabled. Try the chat box, and if not, we'll sort that out, and you can put it in the Q&A section as well. And then, of course, for those who aren't able to make it today, or if you want to rewatch this webinar at a later time, we will provide the recording afterwards, hopefully within the next week. So stay tuned for that. And so enough of me speaking for now. I'm going to turn it over to Taylor to lead us in her presentation today.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll just make sure I share my desktop. Looks like everything is good. Okay. Always like, okay, I
There
can't
we
see
go.
any. So you guys can see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So I just wanted to thank you all again for having me be a part of another webinar, another event that you guys are putting on. ARPA has been a huge support to me and Indigenous Sport Council of Alberta over the last few years now that we've been connected. So it's truly an honor to, be with you guys again. So thank you again for inviting me. And I look forward to hearing more about what you guys are doing in terms of MMIWG, Bree, after my presentation. So yeah, again, I really am grateful to be here and to share this with all of you. Sorry, okay, there we go. So yeah, so thank you again for having me. And so I guess I'm just gonna kind of get started here. I find it weird when I can't see you guys, but that's okay. It's like, I feel super weird talking to
I
nobody.
know you're talking at what feels like a blank screen, but you're not, I promise.
Sorry. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so as mentioned, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure everything's set up properly here. Okay, there we go. Now I can kind of see you guys. It really bothers me. As long as I can see a few faces, we're good. So I am going to talk about honoring our missing and murdered Indigenous people and understanding how movement is medicine. So, for us at Indigenous Sport Council of Alberta, of course, we have a lot of pride in movement, sport, and, allowing the opportunity to provide youth with access to sport. So I'll talk a lot more about kind of what programming we've had to offer. But first, I'm going to kind of go into understanding MMIP. So just a little trigger warning before we get started with the presentation. There are going to be some statistics and some tough information coming out of this conversation. So please remember to take care of yourself whichever way that is for you. I did light my smudge this morning before we started, and I prayed with my sage, but also used sweetgrass as well for protection. I'm wearing my earrings that have sweetgrass on them. So yeah, so just remember to take care of yourself after all of this as well. So yeah, so I'm also going to start off with a land acknowledgement. So, Gwe Jalasi, Deloise Taylor McPherson. I said hello and welcome all. My name is Taylor McPherson in the Mi'kmaq language. I want to begin the session by humbly acknowledging that I'm calling in today from and living in Amiskwaciwâskahikan, or also known as Edmonton, which translates into Beaver Hill House in the Cree language. Since time immemorial, this land has been the traditional place for gathering, hunting, trading, and ceremonies. We honor the Nehewak, Denesuline, Anishinaabe, Nakota Sioux, Nisitapi, Tsuut'ina, and the Inuit whose deep connections are rooted in this land. We also recognize the Otipemisiwak, the Métis Nation of Alberta, especially within Métis Region 4, which encompasses the North Saskatchewan River Territory. And finally, we recognize all nations, Indigenous and non, who live, work, and play on this land and call this land home. For me, it's really important to, connect and make it known where we're calling in from or where I'm connected to. Although this is not where I was born and raised, I've been living in Edmonton now for almost 8 years. So this is now home for me. So I am honored to live and work on this land. So to kick us off, I'm going to do a little more of an introduction. So I am a proud Mi'kmaq woman, member of the Mi'kmaq First Nations, which is located in Conne River, Newfoundland. And as Bree mentioned, I had the opportunity of wrestling with the Pandas wrestling team for 6 seasons. So I wrestled at the University of Alberta for 6 full years. And during my time there, I had the opportunity to represent Team Canada on 2 U23 World stages, and also, have the opportunity to do lots of traveling and experience the world through wrestling. I also was able to win a national championship in my final year and win a national team championship banner with my women's team in my final year of wrestling. So I love the sport of wrestling. I love sports. It's what's kept me out of trouble as a kid and helped me deal with a lot of things growing up. So sport plays a huge role in my life. I'm also an alumni, I guess now technically, of U of A. So I just officially finished my Master's of Science in Kinesiology in December, where I just defended my thesis. So I will be convocating on June 13th. And yeah, so pretty soon here I received that piece of paper that I worked so hard for. And I also am a coach, so I coach with the Edmonton Wrestling Club. I've been coaching with the University of Alberta wrestling team for the last 2 years now. And I also had the opportunity to reintroduce Team Alberta Wrestling back into the North American Indigenous Games at our last games in Halifax. And I will also be attending Canada Summer Games this summer as the head coach for the female wrestling team going to Newfoundland. So we're really excited about that. It's in a few months. It was like 71 days, just 5 days ago. So I'm freaking out a little bit, but we're good. We're excited. And then lastly, I'm Amazing Race co-winner with my best friend Katie. And also sport program coordinator with the Indigenous Sport Council of Alberta. So we're a nonprofit provincial sport organization that runs a lot of low-cost and free programming across the province. So I have the opportunity to work with all kinds of youth from many different nations and try to provide the opportunity to access sport or try new sports across our province. So that's a little bit about me. If you have questions or anything, we're definitely try to save some time for questions at the end, so please hold on to those thoughts. So now we're just going to go into understanding missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. So just again, a little trigger warning for those. This may be a little bit of a complicated topic. So yeah. And a lot of my information I did get off of Aboriginal Alert, which is another nonprofit organization that works to update our missing and murdered Indigenous peoples numbers across the country regularly. So they're very up to date on recent cases, and they do their best to make sure everything that's been reported is being updated onto their website so that there's hopefully a higher chance of people being found before, any other serious consequences. So what does it mean to understand missing and murdered Indigenous people? So Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit people, and even our men go missing at an alarmingly high rate, much higher than their non-Indigenous counterparts. The cases of missing individuals are severely underreported. However, like I said, Aboriginal Alert reported that 1,324 missing alerts of Indigenous people were added in 2024. So just in the last year, 1,300 people have gone missing. And, that's obviously a very big crisis and problem when a majority of those numbers, that's just of Indigenous people. So Indigenous women and girls accounted for 62% of all missing person alerts in 2024. So 62% of all of the missing people's reports that went out were Indigenous women. And again, that's a very just a bad number. Obviously we want 0, but for it to be over 50%, that's an alarmingly high rate for our people going through this. So that accounted for 816 alerts issued over the 12-month period. And similarly, Indigenous men and boys also represent a larger number of missing persons alerts in Canada. So they represented 32% of all missing person alerts in Canada, with 480 of them issued over the 12-month period. But the worst part of, the men, even though they reported missing at a lesser rate or a lesser percentage, there was a more significant higher proportion of them that came out deceased. So the outcomes for them was they were found deceased. So 71% of the men's cases, they were not found alive. So obviously this raises serious concerns about the specific vulnerabilities that our men face as well when going missing in our country. And so as you can see kind of at the bottom here, I have that Alberta was the province with the 4th highest number. So this graphic here was taken off of Aboriginal Alert's website. And like I said, again, they keep these infographics and information up to date pretty regularly. And so, yeah, we were the fourth highest number of Aboriginal alerts in Canada, which is alarming for, Alberta. We do have a decent sized population of people here. But at the same time, to be the fourth highest province is not something that we should be proud of, right? And so again, I think this comes back to the importance of the work that ARPA is also trying to do now going forward, helping maybe limit these cases or making sure our parks and recs sectors are safer for our people, right? A lot of people come and go in and out of these sectors, so just understanding these statistics and understanding that a lot of these people are going missing in many of our areas around the city, outside of the city, highways, rural areas, it's really important to understand these statistics. So also within Alberta, right now, there are 29 individuals that are still currently reported missing in Alberta, with approximately 70 reported missing across the country. And I do want to just, preface, like, with these statistics, these are of reported missing cases. That's not to say that, that basically entails that, these numbers are likely higher, because not every single case is reported. And not a lot of them are always taken seriously by our police departments and those out there who are supposed to help protect and serve and, just make sure our people are being found or, looked after. So again, so I just want to say, this is based on Aboriginal alerts, reporting, which again, they do an amazing job of getting the information out there as soon as they get a report. But that's of reported cases. So there could be a lot more undocumented cases. So, and remembering with these numbers, Indigenous people still only make up about 5% of Canada, right? So when our communities only make up about 5% of the population within Canada, and 62% of women are going missing, that's a very, very bad number, very bad number. They're at way higher risk of, many things, which I'll kind of go into here next. So statistics of Indigenous women's experiences within Canada. So this was pulled from Stats Canada. They haven't updated their statistics since 2022, so it is outdated and likely has not really changed. One thing I forgot to mention, so on the Aboriginal Alert website, it shows that cases of reported missing people have only gone up since 2019 or whenever. I think it was 2019 they had on their document, but cases are still only going up, and maybe that's because people are finally reporting them more and more now, as maybe before it wasn't reported as much, or wasn't that, like, they didn't really get those reports in. So it's just important to understand that, like, this crisis it hasn't gotten any better. And if not, we're seeing more reports now than we ever have before. One thing that I notice, when I'm on social media, I follow a lot of Indigenous Facebook pages and things, to stay up to date with what's going on in our communities, and, trying to just make sure I can share out information to them as well. And in a lot of those pages, I think every single day when I open up a page, I see another missing person report or alert. And again, it's really devastating and upsetting that this is still the state of our country and our communities, and that our people still keep going missing at alarmingly high rates, or experience domestic abuse or sexual abuse at just very terribly high rates. So some of these stats, like I said, are from 2022, but as you can see here, the red is Indigenous women's stats, and then the white is the non-Indigenous. So Indigenous women, 56% of them experience physical assault at some point in their lifetime. 46% of them experience sexual assault. And then when we look at even our foster care systems, our youth, they're within the foster systems, like 53.8% of our foster care systems encompass Indigenous youth or include Indigenous youth. So that's again half of the Indigenous youth in Canada are accounted for in foster care. So it's a alarming rates, you know, when our systems are still not addressing these issues or helping our communities, you know, heal and find solutions to these crazy high statistics, and not really listening to us when we're saying, hey, like, we need to find the solution or figure out the problem. And 42% of Indigenous women or people experience childhood sexual assault. So again, not just terrible statistics and rates. So, you know, as a call to action or a call to, you know, right these wrongs or help create change within our communities and trying to figure out how to do better and get these statistics down, there was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's final report. So it was released in 2015, and it highlighted that Canada had committed cultural genocide through their policies such as residential school systems, which aim to eliminate and erase Indigenous cultures and identities across this country, as we know. The report also emphasized that reconciliation is not solely an Indigenous issue, but it's a Canadian one, implicating that all Canadians have to be a part of the process in healing and understanding what our communities are going through and how to help us heal and how we can all come together better as a Canadian society and do the work together to make sure that we start getting rid of, you know, issues like this or eliminating, you know, these higher statistics of dropouts in high school, missing and murdered Indigenous people, incarceration rates, foster care system rates, you know, all of these different systems that encompass our Canadian society. It's so important that we look back to the TRC to figure out what needs to be done to help change these systems. Because again, these were all recommendations from residential school survivors, people who were in the 60 scoop, individuals who experienced, you know, MMIWP or you know, so all of these experiences were considered, I guess, when creating the TRC or the calls to action. So while the TRC's calls to action, including number 41 here, which it calls upon the federal government in consultation with Aboriginal organizations to appoint a public inquiry into the causes of and remedies for the disproportionate victimization of Aboriginal women and girls. So, you know, it's the implementation and follow through that, you know, remains an ongoing challenge. You know, we haven't seen enough implementation and follow through with these TRC calls to action. Like I said, the numbers of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and our boys in Canada are horrifying. The recommendation is important because it draws attention to how Aboriginal peoples and specifically women have been treated and ignored within our country. We come from matriarchal societies, you know, one where our women were held to high regard and held important roles within the community. And now it's after colonization, it really flipped to a patriarchal society. And so that's kind of part of the reason that violence and you know, discrimination against Indigenous women it is a thing today. You know, it's not from our own communities, it's from the colonial oppression and approaches to governance. And so this recommendation could be implemented in a number of ways, getting government to launch investigations, set up campaigns. So I'll talk about some campaigns and proper media coverage. As we see, we're constantly silenced in the media. You know, there is some coming out here and there, but you don't see posts every day on the news or in the media about missing Indigenous women and girls. And like I said, I see it every day on Facebook. So the fact that it's not on our media, our news outlets every single day, again, is a very big problem because it's silencing our people. And so, for instance, the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls released its final report in 2019, which included 231 calls for justice. But however, as of 2023, only a few of these calls have been fully implemented or implemented at all, with many in progress still. And that goes for the TRC calls to action as well. And so, we need to there is a need for a comprehensive investigation into the systematic issues contributing to the victimization of Indigenous women and girls. And the call is to really emphasize that to achieve reconciliation, it requires that collective effort and accountability from all Canadians that we're talking about here. And so in the next slide, I'm going to go into talk a little bit more about how our organization has been advocating for change. And, some of the programs that we've implemented to kind of try to combat MMIWG, or at least provide culturally safe and just safe in general environments for our Indigenous people to participate in sport and recreation, and hopefully stay off that list of, missing people that we constantly see on Aboriginal Alert. So a little video is going to play. So I hope the music's not too loud, but it's a video collage from our Moose Hide campaign that we just hosted in Edmonton last week or the week before. I don't even know. My weeks are blending together. So here we go.
I don't think we can hear the sound.
You can't?
Sadly, I can't. That's okay.
I was feeding you. It's a trigger warning. Feeding you. We're ready for the show. You know nothing.
Okay, sorry if you didn't get the sound.
Not the best part of, well, not the best part, but the throat singing we heard, which was beautiful. I remember hearing that in person.
Yeah, the throat singing was my favorite as well. And yeah, so really, the video was more to just show kind of what our organization is doing anyways in terms of advocating for MMIP. But the music did make the video, but it's okay. So, what I'm asking is like, what does advocating for change look like? And within our organization, so I've been with Indigenous Sport Council of Alberta for almost 4 years now, I guess 4 years. So what I've had the privilege of doing is coordinating numerous programs aimed at fostering community engagement and promoting positive change. And one of the most impactful initiatives that I've been hosting over the last 4 years is the Moose Hide Campaign Day in Edmonton. And so this grassroots movement was founded by Paul and Raven Lacerte in 2011, and it encourages men and boys to take a stand against violence towards Indigenous women and children by wearing their moose hide pins. So I'm wearing mine right now. And this pin is it's medicine that's gifted to the people who, agree to advocate for this change and take that pledge and, start that conversation about violence within our communities. And so I've had the opportunity of running our own City of Edmonton one, even though it's a national campaign. And so our Edmonton event has grown every single year, bringing together community members, elders, and leaders to share stories and engage in cultural practices and renew our collective commitment to ending gender-based violence within our city. And the significance of these gatherings extends beyond the ceremonies themselves, of course. but it serves as a platform for individuals to use their voices and advocate for change within our community. By coming together, we don't just raise awareness, but we also send a powerful message to our governments that we're united in a fight for a safer and more just society. So as you saw in that video, we were actually set up in City Hall with our dancers dancing on the stairs. Our teepee was set up inside City Hall. We had smudge lit in there. We had Indigenous community members from all different communities, and we had non-Indigenous people as well as a part of that ceremony in that day. And again, it's just allowing our community members to have that voice and advocate and really show our governments what we need to change. You know, when hundreds of people keep coming together for the same event every single year, it means it's still a problem. And so it's something that we need to fix and something that needs to change. And so, you know, like I've said again, the importance of using our voices can't be overstated. Advocacy is a vital tool in driving our societal change, and particularly when it comes to this issue that disproportionately affects Indigenous women and people in general. And by participating in initiatives like Moose High Campaign, we contribute to the broader movement that challenges harmful norms, promotes healings, and supports reconciliation. And really, each one of those voices that are part of this campaign day adds strength to the collective and a call for action, demonstrating that we are not passive observers, but we're active participants in shaping the future of our community. And this year I had the unique privilege of actually traveling to Victoria to MC the National Moose High Campaign Day event. I flew out right after ours and went to go MC the next day. And for me, it was a profound experience to witness the unity and commitment of individuals from across the country, standing together to end gender-based violence. And the event featured a walk. And really there we had keynote speakers, ceremonies, and it really underscored the importance of community healing and that collective action again. And so for me, it was amazing to be able to be a part of that community, to be a part of that journey with Raven Lissert herself, who started the campaign, and just see how many people are really out there advocating for this change. So next here, I'm going to show you just a little bit about what we're doing as part of our programming at Indigenous Sport Council of Alberta. So our goal is to obviously empower our communities. So ISCA has been actively working to address the crisis of MMIWG and 2S people through targeted and culturally relevant programming that prioritizes safety, empowerment, and community connection. So I'm going to go into the next slide and just show you a few different programs and stuff that we kind of have had in place or currently have in place that kind of supports empowerment of Indigenous women and girls, Two-Spirit people, and just our community as a whole. So we obviously try to foster environments where Indigenous participants can heal, grow, and thrive. And we want to prioritize safety, cultural identity, and connection. And that overall helps combat isolation and systemic marginalization that you typically see in westernized sports systems. Another thing we've had offered and we still currently offer is self-defense and boxing programs. So it provided participants with practical tools for self-protection while also building confidence and strength and self-awareness. And it also fosters like a sense of agency and personal power within oneself, which ideally helps reduce vulnerability and promote safety for our Indigenous women and girls. And we also had a men and boys program as well. Another one that we more recently partnered with was with the City of Edmonton and the Strong Her program. So it offers one-on-one lifting for young Indigenous women, girls, to help them gain confidence and competence within the gyms. So it's to encourage, obviously, long-term engagement in healthy lifestyles and both physical and mental, emotional resilience. And then we've also offered lots of different cultural programs, so ribbon skirt making, moccasin making, drum making. And it's, you know, art is a way of helping us heal from intergenerational trauma. It's that cultural revitalization, which is a key strategy in reducing vulnerability, which is also aligned with the National Inquiry to MMIWG Call for Action. We also worked with Wells to Bridges program. So that was a program with the Edmonton Institute for Women here in Edmonton and the University of Alberta. So it brought incarcerated women and students together for classes. They had already had that program in place, but we also offered cultural support, so ribbon skirt making, all of that through Buffalo Sage cultural programming as well. So they also did headshots, resume making, ribbon skirt making, dance classes, all of that. And then we've also supported virtual fitness challenges where people have the opportunity to come online from all areas of our province. And it promotes the holistic health and well-being and reduces social isolation by bringing everybody together online to connect through online fitness classes. And then lastly, like I said, Moose High Campaign Day is another really important initiative that we've supported the last 4 years, and also any other red dress events. And sorry, not lastly, now last is the SHED program. So it's a transformative initiative that provides Indigenous youth with holistic, culturally grounded spaces to participate in physical activity and recreation. And basically, it's to help divert young people from harmful paths. So we want to foster positive identity and purpose and pride within their community. So creating leaders within their own community to run sport and recreation programming. And so my last little bit here, because I know I'm running out of time, sorry, Bree. So movement is medicine. So it's remembering that it empowers the body and the mind to heal from our traumas. It builds confidence and it reconnects individuals to their strength and resilience through our physical activity. Indigenous people reclaim their agency over their wellness by breaking cycles of vulnerability. But the true healing really flows from the community connections and the safe spaces that we create when we're all moving together. And so lastly, you know, organizational supports, you know, you guys as different organizations and people out there play a crucial role in addressing the crisis of MMIP. And some things that you can do similarly to, you know, what ARPA is doing here is show solidarity and raise awareness. So you can do that by, you know, wearing a moose hide pin, taking the pledge, wearing a red dress pin, you know, just standing with these Indigenous communities, providing cultural education training and implementing it within your own organizations. You can support Indigenous programming by amplifying Indigenous voices, like they are also doing. You're allowing me to sit here and yap away today. But again, it just, that collaboration, that community piece, that coming together as a whole to create more change is so important. You can help advocate for policy changes. As I mentioned before, there's so many, all of our systems are made without us in mind. So it's also using your voice as organizations to advocate for that change. And then just really engage in community partnerships and build those meaningful relationships with the Indigenous communities around your area. And yeah, and that's kind of really all I've got for you. If you have questions, I don't know if we have time. But I do also have, oh, I see there's a spelling mistake. Oops. But I do have my resources page here. So just some of the stuff that I had talked about. So the final report of MMIWG, TRC, Aboriginal Alerts website, StatsCan, and also our ISCA link tree if you want to give us a follow on Instagram or whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got for you guys today. I hope that.
Amazing. This was great. Thank you so much, Taylor. Yeah, feel free to throw questions in the chat. I'm gonna try and leave some space at the end for maybe a question or two, and if not, all good. You know where to find us if you do have questions that maybe you just would like to address individually with one of us, either Taylor or someone at ARPA. So again, thank you, Taylor. As always, so much important information to share and beautiful work that's also being done with your programming and ISCA's programming too. So this was great. It's a good transition into what I'm going to be sharing about as well. So I just want to get my screen set up here really quickly. Let's go here. Can everyone see the full screen mode? Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now I'm just going to move my notes over. Okay, so you all are still seeing the full presentation? Lovely. Hooray, I got two monitors going, so it's always confusing. Yeah, so what brings us here also is, of course, advocating and amplifying Indigenous voices and ally organizations and Indigenous organizations who are doing this amazing work. So hence why we invited ISCA and Taylor here today. And so now it's really about, we want to kind of talk about the importance of this newest resource that ARPA has created, why we created it, and what it is all about. And I do want to just share the caveat that I want to acknowledge that myself nor ARPA are we experts in this material. This is really this is from a place of allyship and what we've learned so far as an organization from Indigenous elders, communities, partners, and other ally organizations. So I always want to preface that because we're still learning in this journey, and we're just hoping that we can share what we've learned with you today. So let me go to the next slide. Okay, so a little bit of context. Why did we create this new resource of advocating for missing and murdered Indigenous peoples in Alberta? And some of the research that I've just learned and also found from other organizations is ultimately that Indigenous people in Alberta do face multiple interconnected barriers to accessing those safe, inclusive, and culturally appropriate recreation and sport opportunities. And these barriers are really rooted in colonial practices still, systemic racism, underfunding, and geographic inequities, just to name a few. And so some examples of that in a little easier chart, it was helpful for my brain to kind of go through this is this is the barrier, and here's kind of what it looks like to help you identify that within the sector, whatever role or organization you work with. So the systemic racism, it can be discrimination facilities programs or interpersonal relationships or interactions. There's a lot of cultural unsafety where there isn't enough Indigenous-led or culturally grounded programming just yet. Hence why ISCA is doing all that amazing work among other organizations in Alberta. The geographic isolation, especially for Indigenous communities that are more remote and rural. But again, there can be a remoteness for Indigenous urban populations as well in terms of maybe gaining access on the flip side to get back out to their communities to really do the land-based learning out there. Of course, cost, and that isn't a new one. It's always been a barrier, is getting access and cost to buy equipment and travel and registration for a lot of families. It's a big barrier. There's also a lack of representation. So there isn't as many Indigenous staff or leadership in the sector, and we're really looking at amplifying that and changing that. Hence, again, the amazing work that Taylor's doing and organizations alike. Also, there's that trauma and mistrust still of colonial systems. There's a damaging legacy there, and there's a lot of wariness around like government and institutional services. So even as seeing certain programs that might be funded by government, for example, that could still lead to some trust for some Indigenous folks as well. And it's just being aware of that. And then, of course, 2S LGBTQIA plus individuals, there's still limited inclusive programming for gender diverse Indigenous youth as well. So yeah, from a recreation parks lens, these are some key barriers that Indigenous folks, even newcomers today, still experience. And so, let me go to this one. And so ultimately, the recreation park sector in Alberta has this critical role of responding to the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples movement by creating those safe, culturally appropriate, and healing environments. Ultimately, we want them to support justice, dignity, and safety for Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people while promoting broader community reconciliation and well-being. And so to save some time, this is directly out of our resource, but it walks you through what is that movement. We encourage you to become aware and read into the report of the calls for justice that Taylor had also touched on. So I'm not going to go into it here. Also, the connection to Red Dress Day, which is more so known as the National Day of Awareness for the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. And that is ultimately, that just passed. So that passed on May 5th earlier this month. So we wanted to come together and kind of highlight that. But again, just shedding light on the disproportionate violence faced by Indigenous communities and calls for collective action towards reconciliation. So just a little tidbit about that. Also, what you can find in our resource is a lovely little case study, just again showcasing how we actually held a beading session with Taylor at our annual conference last year. And it was an opportunity for delegates to learn how to bead either a red dress or an orange shirt in honor of those two significant reconciliation events in our country. So Red Dress Day and of course Orange Shirt Day. And it really did provide a meaningful opportunity to learn about the significance of this movement. And it was a way to kind of communicate about it through storytelling and conversation and really share the deep cultural importance of beading in Indigenous traditions and how it connects to honoring those missing and murdered Indigenous people. And so again, this experience really did just reinforce ARPA's commitment to reconciliation and fostering understanding and creating those inclusive spaces within the recreation and parks sector, hence at a recreation and parks conference event. And so how much time I got some time left. Okay. So what can folks do to support this movement? It calls for systemic changes to address violence, discrimination, and the ongoing crisis facing Indigenous communities. We can play a role in advancing this movement through action-driven initiatives that really just foster that healing and awareness piece. So here are some steps that you can find in our resource that will kind of paint a picture for you of what you can do, whether it's small to larger actions. And so one of them is acknowledge and educate. It's what we're doing today. It's why we're having this webinar. I'm gonna go through land acknowledgements. We should know and be doing this as a bare minimum, in my opinion. And it's always important to learn about the land that you're on, but really looking at that training and awareness piece. So providing staff with education on the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples movement, training on colonial history and Indigenous perspectives, and then, of course, increasing more public awareness. So using park signage, encouraging public events and social media to really share about information on topics such as this and their importance. We also can look to create safe and inclusive spaces. So that's that cultural safety piece in parks, and it's looking to collaborate with Indigenous communities to design and maintain spaces that are welcoming, safe, and culturally relevant. And that's really involving their thoughts, their opinions, their voices in doing so. Another one is safety audits. So really looking at conducting those safety audits on your parks and rec facilities to really identify or mitigate those risks for Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. And then, of course, have safe transportation and lighting, just improve overall access to well-lit pathways, emergency call stations, and public transit options as well. We have support healing and cultural connection. So touching on those Indigenous-led programs that, similar to what Taylor was just talking about, offering programs that really center around Indigenous voices and experiences. And that can include those land-based healing, storytelling, or traditional knowledge sharing. Just like the beading, that's just one example of really bringing in Indigenous-led programming. Of course, honoring ceremonies. So you look at hosting events that honor and acknowledge significant days. We have a few of them this year. We just had May 5th. We're going into June, so there'll be National Indigenous Peoples Day, and then of course September 30th, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So those are key opportunities to really involve Indigenous communities. And then of course honoring memorial spaces. So maybe dedicating some park spaces or murals or art installations that honor and provide a place for remembrance and reflection. We also can look at strengthening Indigenous partnerships. So again, working with local leaders or Indigenous leaders, elders, communities, and organizations to kind of co-develop programming and policy. You can increase Indigenous representation among staff in leadership and advisory roles within the sector, and then also grants and funding. So allocating funds for Indigenous-led rec programs, cultural events, or safety initiatives. There's a lot of great work doing that. So if you have a grant, look at how that can include Indigenous communities within the province. And then finally is really ultimately advocating for systemic change. It really starts at policy. Policy and planning, where you can integrate, for instance, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Calls for Justice into Rec and Parks policies and master plans. Youth and leadership development, so looking at supporting Indigenous youth through mentorship programs or employment in recreation. And of course, collaborating with law enforcement and community service. So advocate for better protections, just like Taylor was touching on as well, how they don't receive enough protection in that area, especially among police and whatnot. So it's just things like this to be aware of and to educate your organization and yourself about, so that you can start building and implementing changes like this within your community. And so again, this is just one way to align with our Walking with Indigenous Communities action map. The reason for the creation of this document was because we felt there was a gap in our reconciliation resources. And so we really just wanted to honor that by creating a new resource that helps you take action in reconciliation, especially in regards to this movement, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples movement. So you can scan the QR code if you want to read more about our action map, but it's a great tool for you to use to help inspire work in your organization. And so with that, you can download it, you can read it here. I know we have a minute left, so I'm really sorry. I don't think we're going to have room for questions, but again, you can message Taylor or I or someone at ARPA that you feel comfortable with if you have any questions. I would love to open the floor to Elder Diane if she's still here. Is she still here or did she leave? I can't see my screen.
I think we lost her.
Okay,
So, yeah,
and
we
that's
lost her.
okay.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm thankful she could be here to welcome and open us in a good way. I want to thank Taylor again for co-presenting with me and doing an amazing presentation that I think will hit home for a lot of folks. And so with that, I think we'll leave it there. And if you want to know more, you can visit ARPA's Walking with Indigenous Communities webpage. And we will also be sharing this recording with you in the coming days. So stay tuned for that. And when you do get it, share it far and wide with your networks so that we can keep spreading awareness about this important movement. And just know that reconciliation goes beyond just these movements. It's every day, it's ongoing, it's evolving. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.